Greetings to everyone. In this video, we are dealing with producer surplus, minimum support price, and price and quantitative restrictions. I am Manya Jagumar, here to talk about the producer surplus and price and quantitative restrictions. Let's move on to the video. First of all, let's see what is producer surplus. It is the total amount that a producer benefits from producing and selling a quantity of a good at the market price. It is generated by market prices in excess of the lowest price producers would otherwise be willing to accept for their goods. In a simplest definition, producer surplus is the difference between how much a person would be willing to accept for the given quantity of a good versus how much they can receive by selling the good at the market price. The total revenue that a producer receives from selling their goods minus the total cost of production equals the producer surplus. It can be written in the equation form, that is, total revenue minus total cost equal to producer surplus. And the producer surplus plus consumer surplus represents the total benefit to everyone in the market from participating in production and trade of the good. Let's look at a graph of the producer surplus. In this diagram, OX-axis represents quantity of the commodity and OY-axis represents the price of the commodity. And also, there is a supply and demand curves. There is an equilibrium point when the demand curve intersects the supply curve. Here, the producer surplus is shown in grey color. As the price increases, the incentive for producing more goods increases, thereby increasing the producer surplus. A producer always tries to increase his producer surplus by trying to sell more and more at higher prices. However, it is simply not possible to increase the producer surplus indefinitely, since at higher prices there might be very little or no demand for goods. Let's see the difference between a producer surplus and profit. Profit is total revenues minus total cost. Conversely, producer surplus is the revenue from the sale of one item minus the marginal cost, direct cost of producing that item. That is, the increase in total cost caused by that item. If a business's only cost are marginal cost, direct cost, then profit and producer surplus are the same. But if there are fixed or sunk costs like rent or new equipment, that don't change no matter how much or little you produce. Those costs are factored into the calculation of profit, and profit is less than producer surplus.
Hello friends, in this video we will be learning about what is minimum support price, its importance, and some issues faced by minimum support price. So what is minimum support price or MSP? The MSP is the rate at which the government purchases crops from farmers. MSP is the minimum price for any crop that the government considers as remunerative for farmers and hence deserving of support. Before the harvest during each Rabi or Kharif crop season, the Government of India announces the MSP for procurement on the basis of the recommendation of the Commission of Agricultural Costs and Prices, that is known as CACP. Currently, rates are fixed for 23 crops, including 6 crops during the upcoming Rabi or winter season, for which sowing will begin in October. So let's look on what is Commission of Agricultural Costs and Prices, that is, which is known as CACP. The Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices, which is known as CACP, is an attached office of the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. It is an advisory board whose recommendations are not binding on the government. The Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices determines the MSP based on the formula derived from the Swaminathan Committee, a panel formed by the Government of India to address the issues faced by the farmers. A2. It covers all the expenses incurred by farmers on seeds, fertilizers, chemicals, hired labor, and so on. A2 plus FL. It covers actual costs and an assigned value of unpaid family labor. C2. It covers A2 plus FL in addition to the revenues foregone on owned land and fixed capital assets. Now let's look on the importance of MSP. With globalization resulting in free trade in agricultural commodities, protecting the farmers is the need of the hour. MSP protects farmers from price fluctuations and market imperfections. The guaranteed price for the crops and assured markets encourage higher investment and adoption of modern farming practices. Now let's look on some issues with MSP. The major problem with the MSP is the lack of government machinery for procurement for all crops except wheat and rice, which the Food Corporation of India actively procures under the PDS. As state governments procure the last mile grain, the farmers of states where the grain is procured completely by the government benefit more, while those in states that procure less are often affected. The MSP-based procurement system is also dependent on middlemen, commission agents, and APMC officials, which smaller farmers find difficult to get access to.
Let's see the price and quantitative restrictions. First of all, what is price? It is the value that is put to a product or service and is the result of a complex set of calculations, research and understanding, and risk-taking ability. In simple terms, price is the amount of money that has to be paid to acquire a given product. Insofar as the amount people are prepared to pay for a product represents its value, price is also a measure of value. Price can be set by a seller or producer when they possess monopoly power and are said to be price makers, or set through the market itself when firms are price takers. Price can also be set by the buyer when they possess some monopoly power. Then have a look into the quantitative restrictions. These are the limits imposed on the quantity of goods that are imported or exported. It includes import quotas and voluntary export restraints which are signed by the exporters of foreign countries. Quantitative restrictions are imposed to discourage imports and thus protect domestic industries from competition from cheaper and technologically advanced goods manufactured by other nations. Quantitative restrictions have been abolished by WTO in a phased manner to facilitate world trade. Article 11 of the GATT 1994 is the main provision regulating quantitative restrictions, that is QRS. The scope of this provision includes all prohibitions or restrictions other than tariff or other taxes applied or maintained by a WTO member on the importation or exportation of goods, which can be made effective through quotas, import or export, licensing procedures, or other measures. Although Article 11 of the GATT provides for the general elimination of quantitative restrictions, they are allowed in certain specific circumstances. Members' QR notifications seek to provide transparency on these measures, including on its WTO justification. So that's all about our topic. Thank you for your watching.